everyone, welcome back. Laure here, and I was joined by Furndog ahead of this game today. Thank you for joining me. We saw that you bring up a new player yesterday. So in the off-season, you mentioned working on a 10-man roster. How is it, and how do you handle the 10-man roster to maintain synergy?
We really are clear about kind of what we're looking for our roster and who plays in LEC each week. We have very consistent meetings about it and ensure all the players know our criteria for who plays. We're very open to giving everyone an opportunity on our roster, and people are working really hard. So it's more about the clarity and making sure they know what they need to do to get out there is kind of just how we make the best out of this.
And in this sense, isn't it hard to handle players' egos sometimes? I mean, what do you say to them so they don't feel benched, per se?
I think all the players know what they kind of signed up for when joining exceL. It was very clear that this is a 10-man roster, and we're a squad. It's not 2 teams of 5, it's 1 squad of 10, and the person who's not playing, and every single person that's not playing, is doing everything they can to make sure the players that are out there that play are in the best possible shape to actually win our games. So we're trying to promote a squad mentality, I think, more so than like it being one person's benched. It's more like, you're not playing this week, but how can you help the team that's out there that really perform?
And in this sense, second round robin is starting today, and what will you guys need to do, and what is the biggest challenge to become player of contenders? Okay,
so it's a little bit not on us now. Like, the other teams have got to lose their games for us to really hit playoffs. So it's kind of leave it all out there. So show passion, show kind of aggressiveness in our play, and really hold no prisoners, and just we've got no regrets now, we've got nothing to lose, just go out there and play our absolute best to try and force people to make mistakes and know that if they make those mistakes, we're going to be pipping them to the playoff spaces.
How's the confidence today going into the game?
Yeah, it's good. We're clear on our game plan, we're clear on what we need to do out there. It's hard, Splyce are a good team, but we're going to fight for it.
Well, I wish you good luck on that. Thank you for joining me. And back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you very much, Laure. That was a fantastic interview with Furndog, and I really philosophically agree with the idea of a squad mentality, the concept of having, a roster that's just beyond your 5 starters. I live in this dream world where I would love to have specialist mid laners, much like EasyHoon and FLICKR of years gone by, but it's something that esports is still very new to and obviously needs some refinement.
Yeah, and I think the most interesting thing when you speak of 10-man rosters is that we don't actually see all 10 players, right? And of course, the option is there for them to bring in a new top laner, jungle, all these other roles. But what's most important to me is how are those players actually working to better the roster that is being fielded that week?
And I mean, when you look at some of the international success that some of the Korean teams, especially as well as some of the Chinese teams have pulled off, is having those substitute junglers, guys that can sit and watch during the course of a best-of series, watch a game, download, as it were, the opponent, then go into the following game with additional information that the starting player of your opponent doesn't have. He hasn't had the chance to sit with analysts and coaches and watch the game. So I do think, in theory, it works very well, but it is still a very new concept to esports organizations, and it obviously needs a lot of time to develop and practice and establish, especially for an organization like exceL, who are brand new to this level of League of Legends. They're currently sitting at 2-7 losses, looking at falling out of playoffs right now. But if they pick up a win, they're tied with Fnatic, which means there is a shot if they can pick up wins in the second half.
It's definitely a shot, but as we saw with Fnatic, losing these games against sort of borderline playoff teams are really, really unfortunate when you're trying to make that playoff run. And when you have very few wins coming into the start of the second round robin, you have to get all of these borderline wins.
Now let's turn our attention to Splyce, a team that's borderline been the gatekeepers of playoffs for several years as an organization. I was disappointed in their play yesterday. Splyce are a better team than what they showed us yesterday. Vizicsacsi in particular, his cannon left something to be desired in my mind. He made some poor calls and positioning. So I really want to see Splyce return to their strengths and clean up the mistakes they had yesterday.
Yeah, and it was really weird too, because it was like you had individual misplays from someone like Vizicsacsi, but also just some engagements around like the bottom lane where not all the players were going in at the same time, and you had Kobbe really trying hard to carry on that Jinx, but especially when you are on 9.3 and you're playing these late game hyper carry AD carries, you need the rest of your team to be on the same page to set you up for a solid team fight.
It's so important. You can see just how much protection those AD carries can be provided if your team comp allows it. And none of those AD carries find themselves in the ban pool this time around. So LeBlanc, Jace, Yasuo removed from the pool. Karthus, Urgot as well. So a lot of still the AD series, the crit carries, like maybe Lucian is the one that's screaming out to me, that could be a priority.
Yeah, Lucian definitely very high up here when you're just looking at what is left available. And it's very surprising to me to see the Kennen banned away here. I mean, me and you were both watching that game yesterday. I was not impressed by Vizicacsi's performance on it. And now what I'm even more curious about is the priority on Braum, because that is another champion we talked about in the last draft that is very, very strong right now and is also very good alongside the Lucian. So they wanted to divvy up that pairing by snagging away the support.
It's just interesting to see the priority for teams saying, right, if we're going to break up the duo because they don't want to give away both, you get to pick one when you're blue side, and they've picked Norskeren's Braum. He's currently 1 win, 2 losses on the champion. And of course with Sylas, I think he went unpicked and unbanned in the previous game. He's available this game, but we need to see more picks before I see it blind.
Yeah, I think that Sylas is going to definitely fit in as a red side pick, as either a 3rd pick before you can ban a few champions that might give it a hard time, or as a 5th pick, because you have to see the enemy team. And now, to sort of return to that bottom lane priority discussion, I think when you look at the value of Lucian versus perhaps the Braum, you have to consider what comes beneath it. And when I see Braum, I don't really see a second support that's really high priority. With Lucian, there's so many other AD carries.
There is indeed. One of those AD carries is Draven. That was an insta-lock. I did not mean to cut you off, Ender, but Kobbe is throwing down the gauntlet. I'm going to quickly look at the carries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's played 8 unique champions in 9 games. This is now 9 unique champions in 10 games as the man and the face of Splyce, the organization. I'm very interested to see what he can do.
And Kobbe's like, man, all these casters, they're just talking about how we're a late game team. No, I'm picking Draven, and I'm going to take it home here. And I think Draven alongside of Braum is a very powerful 2 versus 2. You're looking at this bottom lane, and you have to expect a bloodbath. Both junglers are going to want to set up for these 2 duos.
Oh man, this is going to be very interesting to play out. And of course, with the Urgot banned away, Aatrox is now locked in. We expect it top lane, but we have seen Xerxe play it in the jungle. He went 4, 4, and 7, so got some of that flex power. And now they're in phase 2, just like you mentioned, and Sylas finds himself in the ban pool alongside the Syndra. I think Lysandro's still up. Would you run that into Zoe? Maybe not.
I mean, you can take it into Zoe, but I think Zoe is favored in that matchup for the range. I would like to see something like the LeBlanc actually taken off the table. I think it has a strong matchup into the Zoe. You can sort of force onto her once you hit level 6, especially, and set up ganks to sort of punish the low mobility champion. That being said, Lysandra is a just solid all-around champion. Even though it's not going to beat the Zoe, it offers so much in terms of forcing cleanses and forcing QSSs that it's a very strong pick as well.
Okay, so Humanoid has played the LeBlanc. It was banned away. There we go. Actually, I was just going to talk about that in a moment. Olaf was the final ban. So Caedral and Xerxe have to confirm for us what their jungle picks will be, whether that Aatrox or not. And for Caedral, he has been a fairly strongly stylistic type of jungle, like one style, a very hard carry. Nocturne, I really think, fits his play style, fits the way exceL have historically played and looked good while playing. So I think that in combination with the likes of a Zoe, if a Paddle Star comes down and a Paranoia finishes it up, that's a scary duo.
Exactly. There's so many things to set up for the darkness to come in, right? You have a Thresh hook, a Zoe bubble land, but you also have the reverse, right? Where Nocturne casts the Paranoia first, and then you have 2 long-range single-target CC abilities coming out of the darkness.
Yeah.
You can't really avoid that if the play is executed in that manner.
Absolutely no way to avoid it. And we're going some old school this weekend. I think it was SK yesterday that ran the Orianna. Today, Humanoid and Splyce will be running that Orianna. And now we get to confirm top lane or jungle Aatrox. With the current Zach Hobber, this would imply that Chachi will be running the Aatrox up in the top lane. He also has 1 win on the champion, 6, 1, and 6. A very good performance in the first round robin.
It's true, has seen some nerfs on this past. Most importantly, the removal of the 2 charges on E, so it's going to be way less reliable for him to hit consecutive Qs, which is really where the power comes from in the champ.
Now, Ender, I know you're very, very young, right? And I know that, you know, I'm one of the older members of the team, but when you see a Aatrox and a Zac and an Orianna, we used to call this combination the ball delivery system. This is real old school, but it used to be the likes of Shen, for example, that used to be around. I hope we get to see the combo.
Hey, look, Trevor, I'm not that young, too, because I remember when all these champions were meta in, like, Season 4 Worlds, right? When Aatrox top lane was the EU special coming into that tournament. Like, these are the picks that sort of, you know, get the memories going here. Of course, so much has changed, both within the game, and especially with a pick like the Aatrox, too.
Absolutely the case. Let's zoom out. I think it's pretty clear to me what exceL want to do. Land some poke and let Jarvan or Nocturne finish something up. But on the side of Splyce, it's quite an odd match. Draven Braum with Orianna Aatrox. It's not a comp that I was anticipating this weekend.
Yeah, so Splyce have a lot of tools to just fly on in there. And as you said, ball delivery with the Zac holding the Orianna ball is going to be very strong there. And really, what does Draven want to do? He wants to keep running forward in fights, picking up those axes and getting consecutive kills. And that's what this composition is going to do. It fights front to back technically, but really it's all about ramming it at your opponent with all those 5 bodies running it down.
Oh, man. And this is, of course, one of those situations where if Zoe ever is unlocked, if Zoe gets ahead at any point, the poke is so frustrating to deal with and so challenging. You don't get a chance to initiate if you are low on HP. So you have to pull the trigger early if you're Splyce, and for exceL, you have to keep them at arm's length, with Specials Zoe. He's, of course, the substitute mid laner for exceL Esports, coming in place of exeL. Very happy we don't have to say exeL expect and exceL Esports in the same game now.
There were plenty of those X's we needed to do, and I think for exceL to try and change the X's in the boxes to the check marks here so they can start climbing back up in the standings and make a case for being a playoff contender.
Okay, so Xerxe has to be a little careful in the early game, I think. Zac into Nocturne. You've got a Jarvan that can start to get frustrating. I mean, you know, does Caedral just want to farm up his jungle, get 6, and then gank? Or, you know, does he fancy a shot at picking a fight with Zac?
I mean, I doubt either of these two junglers are going to match each other, honestly. I mean, in a 1v1, the Nocturne is going to win out, but Zac's never going to let that happen. In the worst case, he just sort of slingshots away. Ultimately, both of these champions like to stay in their jungle a little bit longer. Zac wants to wait till at least level 4 so he can get that extended range in the elastic slingshot before he makes too many plays. And outside of a cheesy little Nocturne level 2 gank around the top side of the map, we probably won't see too much until later on.
Okay, so a couple of minutes then to look at as the game plays out. Taking a quick look down. Keystones, no real huge surprises that I can see just yet. I'm very intrigued in both team comps because it's slightly different flavors for both teams as well, you know, in terms of the pick ban. And now we get to judge their execution. How do they play this out? I also like the idea of a Draven on patch 9.3 with the crit item, you know, power, ramp, and smoothing. He's already a bully in the early game. Giving him Infinity Edge plus those spinning axes, that is going to hurt a lot.
Exactly, and if you can cash in on the passive, get some extra gold in the pocket, well, that's going to mean you're reaching that second item and that third item, most crucially, even sooner. So we will certainly have our eyes on towards Kobbe, but I also think it's interesting here, too, that Kobbe and Norskeren sort of faked a leash. Norskeren tanked one shot from the minion. He also used his Q, so he's lacking in mana. So exceL are going to think that this Zac started on the bottom side of the map, when in fact he actually started top side. And while I don't think that's going to mean too much for the outcome of this game, it is going to make it really hard to judge where the Zac is at minute 4 and minute 5 when the camps are respawning, because they're going to think they came up in the wrong order.
And of course that will help out some of the mistakes we saw yesterday from Splyce. Splyce have been, you know, a pretty reliable early game team. And most of their games this split have been pretty good. And yesterday was just that blip. So Xerxe is going to have a couple of options. And I think Xerxe was one of the guys we were talking about yesterday that there was some expectation on him to step up and be one of the players to carry for the team. Well, that Lucian Braum trade is definitely favoring the Lucian right now. Obviously, Jeskla's Thresh landing the Flay and the death sentence means Norskeren on that first pick. Braum is just getting bullied.
Love me some Lucian level 2 power spike right there. That's a good one whenever you hit level 2 in the bottom lane first. I mean, you can't step up if you're Norskeren because you get hooked, you get flayed, and you take a whole lot of damage.
I mean, it's actually really frustrating even considering playing a Draven into Thresh, because with the Flay, with the death sentence, with the Lanta, there's a lot of frustrating tools that Thresh can use to disrupt a Draven that just wants to run at you.
Yeah, and I mean, later in the game, I think a really important thing too is that in teamfights, Draven wants to walk to those little circles so he can pick up his axes. Well, you're going to see some hooks thrown that way.
Yeah.
More importantly, you're going to see sleepy bubbles and paddle stars thrown that way, so he can definitely get caught out just like that.
Well, there we go. Spinning Axe will also allow the Death Senders to connect, but Norskeren is waiting. The Unbreakable Shield comes up, blocks a couple of autos, and for the time being, no noticeable difference in CS, but Jeskla will have some support from Caedral. Lane gang coming in, so Duskbringer can work. Norskeren decides to go aggro, no vision yet. Here comes Caedral. Early defensive flash, so summon a heal from Kobbe and flash for Norskeren in trade for kaSing's flash.
See, now that was a really strange engage right there, because kaSing, it felt like, went in a little bit early with the flash before he could actually loop Caedral in there with the Lantern. It still does trade for a flash onto Norskeren, which means that's a really easy target to repeat gank, especially once that Nocturne ticks over to level 6. But I can't help but feel like if the coordination had been a little bit higher, they may have been able to cash in for more than just a summoning.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And in hindsight, it's always easy to play it out, of course. Xerxe with that early information. Denial, he's now been spotted by a ward. exceL have got that one just in the north of the river, and our observers very kindly highlighted Xerxe walking over it. And while that's happening, expect to shove this wave in. Jarvan versus Aatrox. What do you make of this matchup? We were watching some Aatrox in LCK earlier today, and obviously now seen a couple of Jarvans this weekend coming back to the forefront. We won't get a chance to talk about that yet. Here comes Special. It's caught out by the stretching strike. As he continues to step forward, and Special just holds his nerve, doesn't use any of his summoner spells, needed to back anyway, and will be able to do so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice gank, but let's face it, Zach and Orianna are not killing anyone this early into the game. Special will actually end up staying in lane. He went for the starting item of the Corrupting Potion, so he has a little bit more sustain and can stick around. But I think the most important part of that play is actually the vision on the top side that Caedral's just about to walk in towards. There's so much to protect Humanoid here as he goes for a big trade.
Oh, look at that passive from Humanoid. Automatic, a lot of damage comes out, and of course the heal used there.
But here's the thing, Special actually won that because Humanoid flashed forward, not expecting the heal to come in, which is honestly a rookie mistake here in LEC, because when heal is up, you don't have to use anything. You get the movement speed to outrange the auto and the extra health to survive it.
Clockwork wind-up on Orianna is one of my favorite passives. It hits so hard in the early game. Extra magic damage on each auto, and Special was quite literally just run down, but he was able to escape, and now with Spell Thief, his own flash available, he may be able to set something up. Combine that with a Paranoia from Caedral or a TP Cataclysm from Expect, right? Ganking Oriannas in the mid lane is something that has been done as long as League of Legends has existed.
Yeah, it really has been, especially with the long-range CC of the bubble to set up and maybe even burn a cleanse. It's going to be easy for Caedral to come to this middle lane once he does end up hitting that level 6.
Okay, so we've looked a little bit at each of the lanes. I want to step back and talk about exceL's performance in the early game as a team. They're one of the new organizations to join the European stage. They're 2-7 losses, and you can see their major deficit. That is the time that a team spends with 48.5% or less of the total gold available in the game. Now, this is a team that I have felt has done okay in the early game. You see their average gold deficit is -1,000, and it's not great, obviously, but I have felt that when exceL have had a team composition or a style they wanted to play, and they've had a chance to execute that plan, they have done well. Unfortunately, they have a few more misses than hits, of course, which is why they're at the record they're at.
Yeah, and for me, I think it really comes down to the jungler, Caedral, because when I see Caedral, I see a player that has had good early game performances, but he's a stubborn player. When there is a play that he wants to make, he's going to go for it. And I've seen him more often than not face plant into a counter gank, which has cost him and his team in the past. Now, bottom lane, Norskeren's looking to go in.
Yeah, comes Xerxe as well, manages to channel that elastic slingshot. The stun comes down into kaSing, flash forward for the unstable meta. And a spinning axe, first blood to Kobbe and Splyce. He's fancying another shot as Jeskla escapes under the tower, and that was well done by Splyce.
It absolutely was. Xerxe was able to sneak into the brush right there and really well coordinate that play. Of course, kaSing burnt the flash earlier trying to make the play to pick Norskeren, and this time it was Splyce's turn to turn it around and get the eventual kill onto kaSing for a big cash in on Kobbe.
Yeah, we need to take a look at the replay, exactly how much gold he picked up. I didn't quite see the pop-up. And of course, while that's going on, expect trying to trade a little bit with Chachi. stepping forward, 69 CS to 57, got the double longswords into the Kindle gem. So Jarvan currently ahead in CS, but the wave is also pushing towards Xerxe.
Yeah, and I think it is interesting to talk about the Jarvan top lane because it is a champion we see more often than not in the jungle. We're going to look at this play in the bot side one more time, though. kaSing actually uses the hook, which takes over his aftershock early. That means he doesn't have the bonus resistance is needed to try and survive underneath this tower. If he'd been able to save the CC, maybe it would have been possible, but honestly, with how Splyce played that, they did not leave many options.
Really, really clean. Splyce pull themselves plus 5,000 gold. And as we've mentioned, Caedral with Paranoia available, except with Cataclysm available and Teleport, Caedral is now starting to fish around. Whenever you see a Nocturne waiting mid lane, it's just waiting for a target to jump on.
Yeah, and I think that Xerxe sort of expects that too. He's waiting close by as well. For now, nothing going to happen. And back to this Jarvan, I do think it's interesting because Jarvan is actually a really strong lane bully. He has good poke with his E against squishier targets, but more importantly with the Q as well. It's very long range, it's very hard to miss, so he can very often win trades from a range. He also just has a really large base auto attack range, which is something you don't really talk about with melee champions, but it's a really powerful tool for him because it allows him to farm just a little bit further back. It buys him more space and means that he's able to play a little bit more safely while still picking up minions.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and obviously will complement the rest of the squad. As you can see now, Splyce, they're grouping up around this Mountain Drake. It is a very juicy mountain, very juicy dragon, Elemental Drake, when you want to play the objective game, and that's something that Splyce have struggled a little with in the mid game. And we keep talking about those ultimates. That's one, that's two. Remember that flashless mid laner? Well, that is exactly what exceL wanted to do. It was anticipated, and I just feel bad for Humanoid because it's so difficult to do anything about that.
I mean, it was a nice three-man shockwave, right? Like, we can give him something, but with just
there is no silver lining there. I veto that positivity.
All right, no, it was terrible. Humanoid, just a few seconds left on flash, punished. A very good timing from exceL. I've been impressed with our teams, both in our last game as well as this one, punishing players whose flash is just about to come back up when they have the confidence because they know it's gonna be there soon.
Yeah.
But it's just not the correct play. Now Jeskla's actually stuck by himself under turret, but here comes a lantern.
All right, so that's going to be enough. Yes, it will. Jeskla escapes.
Oh,
Xerxe
no.
doesn't continue to chase. The whirling death comes out. Jeskla survives for a few seconds. Now the death sentence finds Norskeren. The tower and get cold. Jeskla picks up the kill.
That was so beautiful from the exceL bottom lane. I mean, kaSing makes the call. He says, Jeskla, don't worry. You're going to be okay underneath that turret. I have the lantern for you. All play back. And they bait in Norskeren to get a kill.
The question is, does the kill for Jeskla make up for the turret plate gold that has just been picked up by Kobbe on Draven? His first ever professional Draven game in Europe. He's up 1,000 gold at 11 minutes. So, you know, yes, you get the kill, but there's an opportunity cost for that kill.
There absolutely is. And when you consider the whole play that came into effect right there, it was Xerxe actually coming down. So Jeskla would have been zoned off that whole wave anyway. He would have lost turret plates. He would have lost the minions. So in that scenario, getting the kill is almost the best case scenario. You know you're going to lose overall, but if you can get something back, that's definitely a plus.
Well, definitely the case. Remember, expect no Cataclysm. So Xerxe's chasing, very, very aggro. World Ender was available to him, but he doesn't fancy a dive yet. I'm looking at the minimap, no support from anybody else, but I love this. The moment Xerxe knows exceC cannot use the Cataclysm, he's pushing. Now he needs to be a little careful because exceC's Cataclysm has just become available. So if there's any further support coming out, there's at least a potential for a reprise or another play.
There is, but right now, if I'm exceC, I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable up top side. Very low, without a jungler on his side of the map, but it's exceL. They want to come bot lane. No flash here on towards Norskeren, but with kaSing playing so far forward, there's no way Splyce aren't suspecting a gank coming in from Caedral.
All right, let's bounce, let's bounce. Come on, Xerxe.
Nope.
Didn't get the opportunity.
Nope.
It's actually going to be pretty, like, it's weird because if Special decides to use the portal jump, and you start to channel Let's Bounce in the right place, yes, you can get away with it, but timing on whose ultimate comes out could be very intriguing. Remember that Mountain Drake we spoke about a little while ago? It is still available for these teams. No tower killed just yet, and the first items are picked up, so fight breaking out in the bottom lane.
Now there's teleport coming in behind.
All right, so exceL is coming down. Now Norskeren is able to escape with his life. There's the elastic slingshot. That's not used just yet. exceL gets a cataclysm. That's 1 and 2 already down in favor of exceL Esports. They're not done yet. Shockwave, that was an awkward flash shockwave combo.
Oh,
Special. Sleepy Trouble Bubble, insta cleanse away. Humanoid escapes with his life. Caedral is looking for a Duskbringer. He's going to use the spell shot. With Humanoid's damage, they get the kill. Xerxe escapes with his life. It's a 1 for 3.
And here's Chachi on the side. He's now being zoned, gonna use the dragon to bump him away, but exceL are on the hunt. They see Chachi on the wrong side of the map. The question is, how long is it gonna take? Because you have 3 members jumping onto him.
Okay, that's 3 members indeed. Chachi's trying to do what he can in a 1v3. The flag, the drag, not gonna be enough just yet. The Sleepy Trouble Bubble will at least pop the passive. exceL continues to chase, and Chachi escapes with his life.
Oh man, so early in the game that Norskeren had a chance to revive. I was so awestruck by the flash. I was like, Chachi, are you really gonna waste that? But no, he knew that Norskeren was on the way to get him out alive. Let's watch this one again, because this is a long fight. It starts all the way in the bottom lane, and notice exceL uses the deep vision way earlier from Caedral to come in on the flank. They have no idea it's coming. exceL dunks on the bottom lane of Splyce. From there, it's this long drawn-out chase where it seems like exceL almost gonna get taken down, gets yoinked back in there by the shock blast, and then Special on the other side. He's the hero here for exceL.
And of course, Vizicsacsi joins the fight just a little bit late, but because of the fact that he starts to chase them around and manages to escape with his life using a couple of the spells, I am happy to see this from Chachi, using that little poke from the Mountain Drake. And the reason I'm happy to see Chachi actually not only like joining the fight, but also getting away with his life. Yesterday on Kennen, he did not do that. Yesterday on Kennen, he was trying to play the side lane. He got bullied, he got picked on a lot. And I was disappointed in his positioning, really, more than anything else. So this is at least one step better from yesterday, but still needs to be more influential for this Aatrox pick to help Splyce out.
Yeah, and the hope is here now with the Revive passive, a little more beefiness here on the Aatrox, that he's going to have the ability to get deeper into the fight. Actually, big trouble for Special.
How much trouble is he in? The stretching strike, there's no other target. There's nothing to pull Special closer with. And he manages to escape with his life. Summoner Heal was used, and the Shockwave expended by Humanoid, and exceL escaped with the life. It's an even gold game at 15 minutes.
Yeah, but now look what Splyce are doing. They're moving down both Xerxe and Humanoid over vision, so exceL know this is coming, but the turret is low. There's no plating left just yet. I thought Splyce were going to commit a bit harder, but you can see the rest of exceL, Special, moving down into the jungle. They think something's up, and he's going to lose some minions here trying to pick up this blue buff for it.
All right, so Tower will take a little bit of hits, but nobody's going to stick around. exceL maybe sniffing something's up, by the way. He was following Chachi down the river. Neither top laner has teleport available. And obviously this Mountain Drake is still up. Both teams have kind of been sniffing around the objective, but are not fully committed to it. And I like that Splyce is now brute forced their way onto the first tower of the game. They have vision control around Dragon, so if they want to play for it, they can. But it may be at the cost of mid-tower.
Yeah, that's the struggle right here now for exceL. And you can see they're a little bit late in this map movement. They stuck around bottom lane thinking they could hold on for a bit longer, but now they're going topside. You see Caedral on a ward trying to take down Herald, and with Splyce's bottom lane coming off of a reset, they're coming in fully stocked to get a fight if they can manage to find it quickly enough.
Oh, Splyce are going to be in position to potentially challenge for the kill. Yeah, Rift Herald is not done yet. It's going low, 2,000.
Xerxe.
Here comes the strike, jumping in. Smite goes down. Didn't see quite who got it. Stretching strike goes for 1. Cataclysm is dropped down in just a second. exceL, where is he going to use it? The flag drag dunk, not done yet. exceL are running for their lives, and despite the culling doing what he can, kaSing gets bopped, and Splyce are able to contest. And of course, the Rift Herald will go unsecured, will not be picked up. That's
He'll
the wording
just
I'm
be
looking
left there,
for.
lying on the ground. You know, Herald by himself. Xerxe is just going to stick here, clear out vision, make sure that there's no way exceL can get in there. But honestly, a Nocturne's not going to be finding it, and Splyce get a huge win off that.
No, definitely do, and it's 1,000 gold up. Xerxe's not done yet. Reminder, the last time these two teams met, exceL actually won the early game. They were up 2,500 gold at 20 minutes. Oh man, why do I go story time as a fight breaks out? Jeskla's going to get caught out here. Lantern will buy some time. Paranoia's on cooldown, and look at the mini-map. exceL and Special are making their way from the mid lane, but the tower has fallen. Cataclysm's up for exceL. Norskeren's got no flash, but he's got stand behind me. if it can be used, in exceL unable to close the gap, unable to close the distance, and unable to start the fight.
You know, I'm watching this game, and I think exceL are doing like some things right, but the problem is they're always playing to the weak side of the map. You know, they keep Jeskla and kaSing bottom lane as the turret is going down. Then they try this late rotation to take Herald. That gets stuffed. They lose top lane turret in a 2v2 as well. They didn't even need to be here. They should have been here a minute ago, but instead they end up getting the Herald, but leaving it on the ground, and now kaSing trying to buy time for his team doesn't have a flash, so eventually he will be locked down and lose his life.
So this ends up being 3 kills to 5 in favor kill score, at least for exceL Esports. But Splyce have got the gold lead. And the story I was trying to set up just before their fight is that when these two teams met back in week 1, it was actually exceL that pulled ahead. Look, they were 2.7k gold up at 20 minutes. And a very cheeky Baron plane and some good mid-game teamfights from Splyce allowed them to come back into the game. It was a chaotic mid-game. And you can see between 20 and 30 minutes, Splyce pulled ahead. This time around, it's Splyce in the lead. It's Splyce in control. And with support for Jeskla, Chachi's in a little bit of trouble. He's got flash. Paranoia is now thrown down. Paranoia will follow through on the flash, but no chase coming up. And of course, with World Ender and a tower to go through, exceL just whiffed the ultimate.
Yeah, and Chachi, you know, of course, losing some cooldowns, but at the same time, Xerxe is on the other side of the map, getting the Mountain Drake for himself. And at this point in the game, I feel like Mountain Drake is perhaps one of the best dragons you can get, because it enables you to simply send 2 members over towards Baron, and if you have control and vision denial over that objective, it becomes a very easy thing to do to try and sneak that one away without your opponents realizing.
So we're still very close game. 2,000 gold separates them. It's Splyce in the lead. They've got some pretty strong tools to initiate with. Look at Xerxe hanging around. Gonna get caught by the sleepy trouble bubble while the rest of Splyce are now pushing onto this tower. All 3 outer towers secured. And I mentioned that Splyce have got some tools to initiate with, Ender, but I mean, so do exceL. The thing is, I feel like exceL are going to be better in the skirmish game, look for a pick and then run away, because in straight up 5v5s, I so much prefer what Splyce can do.
Yeah, I think with the lead Splyce have, yes, they have the advantage, but exceL have some very strong tools themselves, and specifically, I'm looking at special Zoe. We saw in that sort of bot lane skirmish how strong the Zoe pick can be, using all the walls in the jungle to get really long-range sleeps. So, what exceL need to be doing is sort of utilizing that power and starting to chunk out members, and eventually, if you can find a pick, the best way to do it is going to be to call down an early darkness here from Caedral's Nocturne to set up for a really good sleepy bubble. That'll be best done around an objective when you know that Kobbe's going to be sitting in a pit free hitting in one area.
So you literally want them to shoot fish in a barrel.
Yes.
Or in this case, shoot snakes in a Baron pit is what you're hoping for. And also, I just thought about that. When Paranoia goes down and Paddlestar can get max range and you have nearly no time to dodge, that's going to hurt a lot. We've not talked a lot about the items. That Paddlestar is Luden's Echo plus the Needlessly Large Rod for now. Here comes the Paranoia. This is coming on to Humanoid. It's already flashed. Yes, the shockwaves come down. Man, exceL have just pulled the trigger and they have destroyed Splyce. That's 1 and 2. Cell Division passive has been popped, but as the Bloblets are combined, exceL get the kill to the tower.
It's so huge here that exceL get the kill onto Xerxe because Baron is up 20 minutes in, and right now, Splyce, they're pushing up the top lane. They got a tower for themselves, but now exceL can move over towards the Baron.
And Ender, you explained exactly how exceL would play their team fights, exactly the order that they would use their spells, and it worked out to perfection. exceL are now on a 5v3 scenario. Whirling Death comes out and it's dropping exceL very low. They've got to be so careful, because if Aatrox jumps into the pit, his passive on that World Ender will help a lot. Now Norskeren, he's stepping forward. They do want the fight. Look at Caedral. He throws out the Duskbringer, the flag, the drag, the knock into the air. Now Expect goes golden, buys some time. A full channel on the culling does a lot of work, but Jeskla's not done yet. Norskerin's outside the pit and Kobbe flashes for his life. All of a sudden, Splyce are routed and running. And exceL are going to find themselves another kill. Norskeren lives a few seconds longer. But golf claps here from Berlin as exceL find their third in a short space of time.
You know, I don't think Splyce needed to go quite that far to stop some bases, but exceL were forced off of the Baron, and that is the situation Splyce were looking for. And I actually think a big unnoticed factor in that last engagement is the fact that while exceL were trying to take down the Baron, the top wave had been pushed in. So there were 3.5 minion waves about that were just lost to that top lane turret, and because they weren't able to capitalize and actually secure the Baron, it meant that the kills in the mid lane were sort of neutralized by that fact.
So you can see the minimap at the moment. This is, of course, the secondary half. I mean, I wonder if Splyce felt they were further away or went a different direction. I couldn't quite see if that ward was spotting them.
So here's the idea from Splyce, right? And in the end, it looks, oh, maybe they shouldn't have done that. Norskeren got picked. There's an ultimate that was blown. Ultimately, what they were trying to do is stop exceL from recalling. Because their mid laner and jungler had just respawned, if they were able to keep exceL on the map with very low HP bars, that is the instant cue for Splyce to then start the Baron themselves. And with the Mountain Drake, we already said that's a very easy possibility.
So all credit here to exceL. They use their team composition well. They initiate around the objective in the right way. And for Splyce, they're going to be very, very careful. Flashless on everybody right now. Chachi will have his up in a few seconds' time. But we're in this first Baron phase of the game. And this has been one where, you know, Froskuren and I spoke quite extensively yesterday around how Splyce, when they have a playbook to follow in the mid-game, are very, very good. But they're very traditional. They're very old school in their style. And maybe that'll suit the comp. Right now, they have to respond to exceL, who've started Baron.
And here's the thing, they actually see what's going on because of a really nice placement of ward. That's not going to be spotted out by a whole lot of pinks, but now the fact that exceL have to get off the Baron, Caedral gets chunked, they have to respond by moving back to pick up this wave, and it opens the floodgates now. Splyce have the opportunity to actually go and get control over the top side of the river, and then maybe even set up for a Mountain Drake.
So very nicely done then. Pressure in the mid lane with the 2 items. Infinity Edge was picked up by Kobbe. By the way, Jeskla sitting on that Black Cleaver and Blade of the Rune King, has had it for a little bit. Expect at 3-0 and 3, going quietly unnoticed as one of the primary success tools in teamfights. He's got the GA, the Tiamat, and the Black Cleaver. So, I mean, Kobbe's going to be so difficult when you think of everything that can jump onto him. I mean, the same is true for Humanoid, right? But he's going towards an Hourglass, so he'll have some option to survive.
Yeah, I mean, exceL's comp is built purely for diving and killing Kobbe, I think. I mean, Humanoid as well, but as you said, once Zhonya's comes in, it's much more difficult. And Expect plays such a pivotal role in that. Because he's going very heavy on the DPS with this build, it's all about him and Nocturne diving onto this Draven, especially when there's no flash. It means for a very easy kill. And you know you have the range of the Zoe as well to follow through on top of that. If you're able to isolate this guy, teamfighting becomes easy because front to back, Splyce have all the tankiness and all the tools to try and control that type of an area.
Tell me exactly how they're going to play it out. You talked about exceL's approach, and now Splyce have to initiate onto Baron. Obviously, Xerxe can start to channel the Elastic Slingshot. It's on cooldown for a few seconds as the Sleepy Trouble caught him.
Yeah, exceL really just need Kobbe to step too far forward, and then they want to collapse, because going on to Xerxe isn't going to be the best. They actually chunk him out hugely,
oh
though.
My word, he's taken so much damage, but look at the Shockwave. The Shockwave catches Expect. Cataclysm still available. Whirling Death is rattled across the exceL members. Caedral is already dead. Expect hasn't found an opportunity to initiate, and that looked so bad to start with, but Splyce made it work.
But that's the thing, exceL used almost everything with their initial cooldowns onto Xerxe, who just went for a reset. I was honestly wondering if Xerxe just runs back onto the map and they try to take the Baron themselves because it's 20 seconds on the timer. This is Splyce we're talking about here. Again, try and slow things down just a little bit, because while Baron has been started and stopped a whole lot, neither team can really afford to fully commit, or they'll just get wiped inside of the pit.
Now the risk of these team fights and all the AoE, I mean, taking a look at all the ultimates here, Box goes down, Paranoia used as well. I mean, Caedral also stuck in the pit, didn't even use the secondary proc.
Yeah, well, the funny thing about the Paranoia, it comes in at the end there, but he uses it so he just doesn't get assassinated in the pit. He sort of hides there. He's like, no one can see me. Baron might be killing me, but it's okay. The enemy team can't see me. I can eventually get out of this if I play outside of their vision, and it ended up being a little bit awkward there for exceL.
Yeah, it really, really did. And we've got another very close game. 2 games to open up the second half of the round robin in Spring have gone very even. I think it is important to note that Splyce have got the gold lead and they've got the Mountain Drake lead. So if Splyce are given any amount of time in that Baron pit, they want to take it out. Jeskla is most likely going to get killed here. Very nicely done. They literally just walked into exceL's jungle. So yes, this is a close game, but it is Splyce in control. They have the metrics to tell you they're leading, and with vision control around Baron, Now it's actually up to Splyce to secure this objective and put pressure on exceL.
It's funny too because we heard Vizicsacsi yesterday talking about Splyce skipping steps, and they did. There's vision inside of the river, but it doesn't matter because they can jump onto targets so far away with the Zac. Now with 2 Mountain Drakes, Baron is going down at an alarming rate, and Caedral needs to use the ultimate to get in.
Okay, expect, will he channel the teleport? He's not started it just yet. Norskeren hops over the wall. kaSing gets pulled backwards, but Xerxe takes a big chunk of damage. Baron is down to 2,500 as kaSing is killed. Jeskla has just respawned and Splyce secure the Baron. exceL just did not really feel they want to do anything except let expect split push.
See, it's so hard, and I feel like some teams maybe could have been able to punish Splyce in that situation because there was a ward. exceL knew Baron was going down. It just wasn't in the pit, so they didn't know how low it was. Ultimately, Caedral needed some extra form of vision so he would know what time to time the paranoia, because he could activate it if he wanted to. He did see members that he could jump on towards, just had no idea what the HP on the Baron was at, and that's where Splyce did a good job of stopping anyone from getting close to that outer wall of the pit.
I also really like the fact that Splyce, after getting vision control, instantly started Baron. They did not dawdle, they did not bide their time, they pulled the trigger instantly, and that's exactly what we wanted to see, and that's why Splyce have got the 4,000 gold lead. Also, they used the 2 Mountain Drakes, which is why Baron went down so quickly. And now you can see 3rd item picked up for Kobbe. Rapid Fire Cannon plus IE and BT on that Draven.
And you know what that is? That's the one gigantic long-range crit onto say, a Zoe that jumps forward to try and get some poke down onto. That's what this build is for. It is so high DPS as they go for the engage.
Okay, let's take a look at the Shockwave. Doesn't even manage to finish the animation. The assassination comes out from expect as well as Caedral, but at what cost? Splyce, they secure themselves a turret in the bottom lane. I'm keeping my eyes on Kobbe, by the way. I just noticed he's 1-1-1, sitting with 370 odd adoration stacks. His very first kill picked up 323 gold. So let's see what his 370 stacks accrue to, or if he can even spend them. Because right now, Splyce are playing the map game. They're not necessarily looking for the kills.
Yeah, exceL, though, they're all about the kills. Actually, kaSing way too far forward gets chunked.
He does indeed. A lot of damage going down. Kobbe throws out the whirling death. It's Vizicsacsi that picks up the kill. Caedral flashes defensively as the hourglass is now thrown down in the middle. The stopwatch, rather. Kobbe escapes for his life. Turns to expect. Kobbe goes low. Kobbe's killed. The stacks are gone. But Jeskla is popped in reply. Special needs to get the paddle stars out as Norskeren is killed by expect. The fight continues as Xerxe ponks down on top of expect. Now Special's running for his life as Chachi and Xerxe can't do more. All of those Baron buffs are being delayed, denied, and thwarted by exceL.
Yeah, I mean, Splyce came out ahead there in terms of kills in that one engagement, which was impressive, honestly, because it was a 4v5 without their Orianna there to support the rest of the team. But exceL, as you said, are delaying the Baron buff, and that's what they need to do. They need to stall towards the second Baron, and here you can see kaSing, after missing the hook, this is where the mistake is made, because Zoe's not with the team. So even though Humanoid is dead, it's still a 4v4. Neither side has their mid laner right at the start, and with kaSing going down early, Jeskla sort of being zoned out on the side there until he can enter the fight a little bit later on. It makes it very hard for the backliners of exceL to do much of anything once their front line goes down.
Yep, and it feels bad, man, because once Kobbe went down, you lose 75% of your adoration stacks, the Draven passive. From 375 down to around 95. He's up to 100 already. But he's got himself another BF sword. He's got a broken stopwatch in his inventory. He used it in that last fight. But there was that consolation prize as well, which was the Infernal Drake. So as far as dragons are concerned, Splyce are pretty happy. Double Mountain, Infernal, next one's Elder. It's Splyce that have map control 5 towers to 3. And from what we have seen this split, you have to believe in Splyce's late game decision-making as a team to allow them to push forward and play around the Baron with the gold lead they've accrued.
Yeah, I mean, Splyce are coming into this second Baron phase with a lot of power behind them, both in gold lead, in terms of items here, with the Draven and the Infernal Drake and the Double Mountain. It seems like everything is sort of built up for them. The issue becomes when they're not all on the same page. We've already seen individual members by themselves, and exceL are so willing and able to pounce.
You know, as soon as the observers flick the vision toggle and Xerxe was waiting to pounce in the wings, I get so nervous.
Oh yeah.
I mean, kaSing is now going to step forward potentially. Look, no vision on Xerxe.
I mean, imagine what it's like to be Splyce in this situation too. It's like, we have the lead, but we actually have died more than we've gotten kills. They're actually just going on in.
Okay, spell shield for Caedral. He's going to take the lantern. Paranoia has been used, no secondary active. The tower is still going to fall. This is the 6th tower. They will survive for a few seconds longer because Splyce did not stick around. The gold lead is not insurmountable. Ender. Can Caedral and exceL still blow up Humanoid or Kobbe? And is that enough to win the team fights?
They can, but more than Caedral and exceL, it's about special now. I feel he's seeing it 3-0-3 here on the Zoe, has 3 fully completed items, including that Rabadon's Death Cap. We talked about shooting fish in a barrel around this Baron pit. We're coming up to that objective in just 1 minute. Now exceL, their biggest issue is gonna come if they can't get control over their own jungle, because right now they don't have the vision. They need to spend some time putting that down prior to this objective spawning, or just gonna see a repeat of what happened before, where Splyce can burst it down without anyone from exceL getting close enough to acquire any vision.
I'm looking at the wards right now, and I think exceL have done relatively well pushing into their own jungle. Take note of the scale on that gold graph, by the way. It's up to 5,000 gold. And what I really like about exceL's itemization is they're fully committed to the play style. I mean, it's like Titanic Hydra, Black Cleaver, GA, and now Jerem's Fist for exceL, Duskblade, GA, Warrior for Caedral. They really are just looking for that assassination, which means, yes, the 5k gold is a lead, and yes, the dragons, but exceL still have the damage to find the kill, but then it's the follow-up where I need to judge them on.
Yeah, and the damage is going to give them a lot of confidence. You can see exceL actually playing this pretty intelligently right now. They push out mid lane first, they bring 5 members to get their own vision in this jungle, and now they have control over the most pivotal bush in the game. This one can see mid lane, it can see the enemy side of the jungle, and Splyce will have to walk into it if they ever want vision over Baron.
Yeah, but Ender, there's no presence being gifted to exceL. They pulled the trigger a little early. Splyce do not wander straight into the trap. The Sleepy Trouble Bubble will not tag Vizicsacsi, and exceL, they are still looking for an opportunity.
But here's the problem with that bush. The second that you don't find anything to make happen with that bush, the enemy team just gets to push mid lane, get priority, and then come in and take vision for you. Now, right now, exceL are playing against the clock because minions are pushing up in both bottom lane and top lane. They're losing gold around the map, but that's a game Splyce are comfortable to play because they know exceL is on the clock.
And of course, this is Splyce's playbook. They excel in this area of the game, understanding how to push the waves out when they are in control and dictating the tempo. The thing that I need to see from Splyce is pushing the vision. If you look at your mini-map, there is a control ward around the blue buff of exceL Esports that was placed by Splyce. Thank you for the flyover, but there's nothing around Baron, which is up. Elder is up in 30 seconds time, so do you attempt a coin flip? Do you try play for both, or do you just pick one?
Here's what Splyce do. I think they wait right now because they have 2 mountains. They can actually just send one member, whether it's Kobbe or Vizicsacsi, over to solo away the Elder Dragon once it does end up spawning. And then once you have that, it's almost impossible to lose a team fight. Now for Splyce, their biggest concern this entire game has been, well, while we're diving, our backline is exposed. Humanoid got an answer. He bought Azonia's Hourglass. Now Kobbe has an answer of his own with the Guardian Angel, and options for exceL are being tightened at the moment.
We're hitting 3 and 4 items in game, and I've let the side down. I failed my role as play-by-play a little by not asking the pivotal question. What about scaling this game?
Oh, the scaling!
Because I think we've hit this point now where we're starting to get to these final fights, and, you know, is it Splyce favorite, or do you like some of the tools exceL have? You may not have a lot of time to answer.
I don't really have a lot of time because right now exceL are around the Baron. Now, Splyce are running in towards them. This is a great setup for Splyce, and you can see exceL zoned completely. Now this is when Splyce send one member down to the Elder Dragon. That's all you need, because exceL have to go up, they have to reset a few people, one person has to clear mid lane, they lose that objective, then Splyce go to Baron, take that game over.
And of course, exceL have to run away because you do not want to get caught by a Shockwave or a Zac or an Aatrox engage in that pit. So here's the solo Elder Dragon that you talked about, and we now have some time to discuss scaling.
Yeah, so in terms of scaling, I think this is actually a really peculiar game because neither AD carry is actually great when you talk about front-to-back team fighting, because Kobbe needs to actually maneuver around to pick up those axes, which is much harder in a 5v5. Lucian, very short-range AD carry, so he's not able to get out as much DPS as someone like a Tristana or a Jinx. Now, that being said, all of these fights are going to be about diving the enemy backline and getting the most damage off possible. exceL built very well for that. It's possible for them to do it, but I think now that Kobbe has the GA, Humanoid has the Zhonya's, on top of the fact that, well, let's just be honest, Splyce have better frontline to absorb some of the engagement, they are the ones that should come out on top.
I think it's also important to note that the tools in Splyce's kit can also do that. They can dive the background. It's just a little more difficult, right? With an Orianna, a Zac, and an Aatrox, there's margin for error. There's a little bit more room to maneuver. But the gold lead, the dragon lead, you know, 9,000 gold, 8,000 rather, is what Splyce have the advantage. Means that margin for error is a little wider. They've got more berth to make small mistakes.
Exactly. You have 3 people on your team with a second health bar, right? Aatrox, Zac, and now the Draven as well. Now, Splyce, they're playing it a little bit more slowly than I think I'm comfortable with at the moment. They are looking for the engagement. That's what they want to use the Elder Dragon for, because a 50-50 is not the best play for them. Now, what I think they need to do after clearing away this minion wave is run back to the Baron, start it up with a Braum and perhaps an Aatrox trying to zone away exceL from putting down vision. Or they just go in on kaSing.
kaSing's already flashed. He gets his way out of the fissure. Special does not find the paddle star nor the bubble trouble. And nobody gets put to sleep, as you can see on the escape. But Splyce have got priority on the Baron pits.
And that's exactly what they do. They push all the way up mid lane to clear out all the vision exceL's jungle. They've been sitting for picks this whole time, so exceL very tentative to walk into the river, but no one is zoning from putting down a ward over the wall. It's going down so fast.
35 seconds on the Elder Dragon. Elder and Baron is sitting in Splyce's back pocket. exceL get pushed away. They get bullied out of the pit. They get bullied out of mid lane, and that means Splyce continue to play the mid game in their way.
And this is the thing, right, for Splyce, because they're a textbook team. And exceL are just playing textbook League of Legends, right? They're trying to contest for mid vision, mid priority, you know, supplementing their own jungle with wards, and Splyce are very comfortable playing against that because they're not being surprised. They then can just have the textbook answer. They've already read that chapter. They read it months ago, years ago. They know how to play at the 40-minute mark.
Yeah, exactly the case. And I really, you know, you have to commend the strengths and the weaknesses, that Splyce are showing. And they've managed to take every important objective. You know, they've got multiple Barons, they've got Elder, they've got multiple Elemental Drakes, and they've got all the tools they need to just push over this map. Now, I also think we should point out that it is a little challenging to hit towers with a Draven. It's a little risky and scary, right?
Sure.
Especially into Jarvan, Nocturne, Zoe, right? So one of the things that we've not necessarily covered yet is almost all the towers that Splyce took the outers was through very smart map play. They apply pressure in one location and they move to another. It's going to be more difficult to do that under the inhib.
Here's the thing. I think it's time to start brute forcing, and I don't mean die, but just use your bodies to create a physical barrier to block the Zoe poke. You also have the Unbreakable from Braum, right? So if you have multiple members in one lane, it's going to be so difficult for exceL to stop it.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to push both side lanes, have those waves crashing at the same time that minions are hitting the mid tower, and then you bring both of your members over that are in the sides. exceL only have 3 people defending, and you break that one.
Especially when you have a 5-item AD carry Draven.
Oh, that's the crit I was talking about earlier.
Was
the rapid fire.
Very painful. Kobbe, rapid fire, static shift, as well as GA, IE, and BT. Here's the dive. Here's the brute force. The channel is in. Xerxe's threatening it. He doesn't need to pull the trigger because the inhibitor is being focused.
And now without a tower here, exceL can't really do much of anything special. Drops the sleep. You can see Xerxe backing away. Big chunk on to expect. Mid lane turret is going down. There's no answer. exceL have to fight.
Remember, Expect is not tanky at all. He does not have enough defensive stats. So that is why he gets chucked so low by a single barrel.
And now top lane, Chachi walks all the way up. The wave was pushing. This is absolutely beautifully set up here from Splyce. exceL, there is no response. First inhibitor goes down, and now you just swipe it all the way up to mid, all the way up to top, and blow the candle out here for exceL.
Very, very nicely done by Splyce. Splyce. 41 minutes into game, the second inhibitor is going to be falling. The top lane is exposed and the minions are now making their way in. The safe play with 39 seconds of Baron is finish this third inhib, go shop, spend what little money or what max money you have, over 1,000 gold for most players, and then go.
Here we go!
This is the engage of exceL. Is it too late? Touch right now. Kobbe escapes with his life. The flash keeps him up. Now Chachi's judging onto special. Caedral's going to go down shortly. He's running for his life. That's a flash forward from Chachi. Splyce have found the fight they needed to shut down exceL, and they will be turning onto the base.
Splyce, with every inhibitor going down, they withstand the engage there from exceL. It had bit them time and time throughout this game, but now they are unmatched in the base of exceL.
There's nothing that exceL can do, and as Jeskla is running for his life, he takes the lantern to safety. The Nexus turret has fallen. Kobbe has full HP and a GA. The Nexus is down, and Splyce take down exceL. It's a Splyce win in a Splyce manner. But, I do want to credit some of the Baron calls. Last week and the week before, it took several more minutes before pulling the trigger, right? And I definitely I'm seeing some growth here. And more importantly, from yesterday to today, Chachi, day and night difference.
Absolutely huge competitor here on the Aatrox in this match. And for Splyce, I feel like it was a very conservative game from them, but it was very calculated and very intelligent the whole way through. They never really put themselves at too much of a risk playing the team game. A few times, exceL was able to pounce because their composition was just so good at isolating individual members, but overall, Splyce just knew exactly how to slowly creep the advantage too far until it reached this breaking point. Every inhibitor went down and there was no chance for exceL.
And of course, when you actually step back and you look at that mid game, it felt to me again like exceL I've seen in weeks gone by, that up until 20 minutes, they know what to do. They know how to tower dive when there's a tower there. They know how to push the lanes when there's lane ganks available. But the moment that map got very wide, got very open, it didn't feel like that Zoe, Nocturne, Jarvan had many opportunities to get to the backline or to get to Splyce. Splyce just played it well, his reaction as well.
Yeah, and I think it was sort of a problem of the game state as well, because it wasn't the control that exceL had over the map. They were always sort of fighting to get vision back. They were never the ones sort of dominating over the midway point in the river. It was really hard to find picks unless they spotted one member of Splyce by themselves.
Well, we do have a replay of the final team fight as we're catching glimpses of Special and Furndog chatting on stage after Special's debut. We'll take a look at that replay in a moment, and of course, this was the attempt at getting Kobbe, but he's untouched. Yes, the fear lands. No GA, and only uses was his summon spell.
I mean, exceL sort of realized once the second inhibitor went down that they had to make a play. I think it was too late. Once you lose two inhibitors, the game's pretty much sealed up. And at that point, they're just, we have to go in now. I don't think Zoe was quite close enough to get the damage. Not that it would have mattered, because again, the front line was too strong and was able to soak all the DPS over on the side of Splyce. So they ultimately were able to sort of run through the side of exceL. And I love looking at the gold over time, right? Because in exceL fashion, you don't really see spikes there.
No.
It's just this slow increment. They take all the small wins they can get, and they never risk it with anything too big.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that's exceL fashion when they're playing. Same for Splyce. You know, they slowly build the snowball, very, very slowly. And eventually, after the momentum accrues, it eventually rolls down, but it takes a long time to build that up.
Yeah, and I think nothing says it better than just Splyce's face cams. Like, right when the game ends, it's like victory, and the camera goes to them. They're not elated. They look like they're almost like
They have
burnt
known
out
for some time they were going to win the game.
Oh yeah, no, it's like they've been thinking so hard for so long, and like we can't make a mistake. That's like, oh,
Yep.
finally won. We did it.
The thing
Let's
that's
go.
important, though, about this win, they are now 6-4. So they're sitting up in the brackets. They're putting some distance between that win-loss. So looking good towards playoffs. It's going to be a story as we continue to play through the rest of the weeks. We do have to ask you about your key player of the game. Go to @LOL Esports on Twitter and give us your pick. This time around, we have Vizicsacsi, Xerxe, and Kobbe. That's a really difficult one for me because I like all three players, but I like Kobbe's first ever Draven game on the European stage.
First ever Draven game was fun, and for me it's hard because it wasn't like any individual really stepped up. It was just so well done as a coordinated team.
It is a Splyce win, and I'm not going to let you vote. You guys have to go vote at home. For more on how Splyce won, let's check in with Laure and the coach.
Thank you very much, Trevor, and thank you, Duke, for joining me. I gotta say, the Splyce team I saw yesterday didn't look like Splyce at all. What happened?
We had a really tough week of scrims. I think we had a new problems in our approach of the game at the beginning of the week. So on Friday, it was a really terrible game yesterday. Our scrims went pretty bad, and we tried to have a kind of a reset this morning, had a long talk with the team, watched some VODs to help us out. And it was better this afternoon, it was better tonight, but we are still not there.
How do you reset the mental state of your players in this situation? You mentioned watching replays. What kind of replays?
Yeah, we tried to do some kind of positive reinforcement. That was one of Mac's idea. We just showed how good they can be. Like, for example, the game against Origin, where we had a really good game on stage. It was our best game, I would say, this split. And they got a bit of confidence, and they started playing way better on the afternoon during warm-ups. And tonight, it could have been way better tonight, but a win is a win.
It's still a win, as you said. There's a replay I would like to show you. It's the bot lane invade from Schalke. You can see it here from exceL. What could you guys have done to prevent this from happening?
I mean, the main issue here is that Jarvan is coming first, and I think so. I would have to check. Maybe we couldn't TP because there was the Nocturne ult or the position of top laners. I should check afterwards. But basically, they just TP'd before us, and we got flanked by Jarvan. And even if Nocturne was a bit more far away than Zac, it's Nocturne. So, and we were in a bad choke position where they could just one-shot Draven, even if he had flash. So, not a really good fight for us.
We know that you're pretty expressive backstage. What were you thinking when this happened?
Sorry?
What were you thinking when this happened?
I mean, I was pretty sad, obviously, about this play. But I mean, I knew we could also win in the mid game through slow macro rotation that we usually go for. And Kobbe was still like he cashed in on Draven. He was still be able to carry the mid game, so it was fine.
Okay, it's still a win, as you mentioned. You still have a long way to go to reach playoff. It's a bit inconsistent from Splyce right now. What do you guys need to do to gain this consistency in the weeks to come?
I would say we have a lot of flaws at the moment. We need first to make sure that our early game on stage is as good as what we can do on scrims. Be more decisive in the mid game. Like, I feel like the players know what they want to do, but maybe they want to take a bit too much time to make sure that everything is in the right condition before they pull the trigger. And sometimes we have to be a bit more decisive. And maybe also work on some of our team fighting. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. So we have to understand when we can take a team fight. So we have a lot of things to improve on basically all the areas, but I think we are getting there slowly.
You're on the right track, as you said. Congratulations on the win again. Merci beaucoup. And we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, it's going to be Vitality versus Schalke 04. Stay tuned, guys.
Yeah, comes Xerxe as well, manages to channel that elastic slingshot. The stun comes down into kaSing. Flash forward for the unstable meta. Jeskla survives for a few seconds. Now the death sentence finds Norskeren. The tower and get cold. Norskeren's able to escape with his life. There's the elastic slingshot. Not used just yet. Expect gets a cataclysm. Need a lot of damage going down. Kobbe throws out the whirling death. It's Vizicsacsi that picks up a kill. Caedral flashes defensively as the hourglass is now thrown down in the middle. Or the stopwatch rather. Kobbe escapes for his life. Turns to expect. Kobbe goes low. Kobbe's killed. Kobbe escapes with his life. The flash keeps him up. Now Chachi's judging onto special. Caedral's going to go down shortly. He's running for his life. That's a flash forward from Chachi. Splyce have found the fight they needed to shut down exceL, and they will be turning onto the base.